Yeah, my glass is idle, Jack. I get so jealous of not being able to pull off the glasses that you pull off on a daily basis.
I think you look great, and whoever's telling you you're not pulling it off, even if it's you,
It's me. It's my internal struggle on a daily basis.
We gotta quiet that voice.
I'm so happy to see you again. Mainly because look, you're the most interesting man in music.
You're very sweet to me and very mean to you.
That's how it's done. I will say, though, the last time I saw you specifically, it was with Fun, not only in the tour in the Ryman, but also early that year at Bonnaroo. I wonder if, you're standing at the Bonnaroo stage with a #1 single years and years and years ago, and you said to yourself, I'm going to be my generation's Rick Rubin.
It's interesting to bring up Bonnaroo and the concept of feeling excited or proud, because Bonnaroo plays a crazy role in my history, because my first band, Steel Train, through a weird series of events, we got to play the Thursday night, 1 in the morning Bonnaroo slot, and this is 2004 or 5. Okay,
I am a Bonnaroo historian at my core, and I did not know that.
Yes, and as a Bonnaroo historian, you know that back then that slot, and this was before even there was festival apps and you could curate your experience. This was more back in the day where if you got on Bonnaroo, you were going to play to 15,000 people. It didn't matter who you were. No one knew my band. The day before we played in Atlanta to 10 people. The day after we played at Sticky Fingers and Little Rock for 5 people. Get up on stage in Bonnaroo. And my first experience playing to a crowd that big, and it's significant because you can't describe it. When you play to 50 people, it's a club show. 100 people, cool. Few hundred people starts to get this kinetic, bigger vibe. But I can't tell you what it was like as a performer to go from the biggest shows I ever played were a few hundred people to getting up at the what is it? Who, what, where, when? What?
This tent or that tent at that point?
It was that tent, and there were 15,000 people there, and I lost my mind, and it's still one of the most formative experiences.
Did you have the same feeling when Fun? Because the crazy thing about the Fun show, and I'll say this to anybody that listen, and I don't think it's happened since, but nobody had a #1 single at the time they played at Bonnaroo until you guys. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That one was a little bit less enjoyable because life was such a whirlwind then. But then I got to do it with Bleachers, I think in 2016 or 17, which was one of my favorite shows. And to come back this year and do it again and then do the Super Jam, it's all, if you give it about Bonnaroo, you know how important the Super Jam is and all these things.
Look, I do. Bonnaroo is my life. I used to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I even run a Bonnaroo podcast. We do a podcast for Bonnaroo, on the Consequence Podcast Network. So, look, it's a daily conversation for us. Bonnaroo is in our blood, and we live it. And not only do we live the actual experience and the life the lifestyle that it really means, but the nerdy part of it, right? So, what I wonder is, how did that band that you had first get on that bill in 2004?
It was some really weird thing with our distributor, which was Sanctuary at the time. It was a really random thing. I remember when we got the official offer, which was screaming and celebrating. I did it 3 times with that band over the years. Once with Fun, once with Bleachers, and then 2022 will be the 6th time, second time with Bleachers, and then 7th if you include Super Jam. It's sort of it's sort of the original great modern American festival that actually modeled itself after the great European festivals.
That's right.
Coachella doesn't really count because that's become a whole different thing. Mm-hmm. And then all the other festivals are, Lollapalooza, which is great, got all their city festivals, different things.
That's right.
Bonnaroo is kind of like that first one and last one where people are just really pot committed for the weekend. Yeah. Because they're gross, they're not showering and stuff. And I think it's a different vibe. When someone is living in a tent, they're like a vibe more feral than if they're in a boutique hotel around the corner.
That's right. And Jack, that's what we say over and over. The reason that Bonnaroo is so great and the reason why there's a real feeling there is because they're in it. The people that go are so in the moment, and it almost feels, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but of all the people that we've talked to, they all say the same thing. they can feel it on stage. So then the artist gives it back to them even more so because of the feeling they're getting from the audience.
Well, it goes two ways because it's like, obviously, like, I'm not sleeping in a tent anymore, but like, you know, it's not like some festival where I'm going to, you know, I'm in the mud too. I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Like, the barrier of entry is so high. And you feel this way. It's like, you know, like you go play a show, it's like, cool, amazing, whatever. You go play a show in some random weird place. Like, I remember we did this like really weird mountain town in Colorado once. And I was like, is anyone going to come to this? And the people that were there, it was just like this shared experience. And
that's right.
Yeah. And then also this year, man, like having it canceled 2 years in a row, once because of the pandemic, once because of flooding.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is like this insult to injury. I just think it's going to be...
Which none of us saw coming, and then it ended up being such a bigger event for like the Northeast than it was even for us in the South. Let me ask you, when it comes to the Super Jam, what in the world are you putting together? When you say 1984, are you doing hits from 1984?
Yeah, I was born in 1984.
I figured that, yeah.
It's also just one of my favorite years of music. I think it's like one of these like crazy, weird years in music where like there was this insane cross section of things happening that were of all different genres, but all hitting the world at the same time. I like the Orwell-ness of it. And so, yeah, we're going to play a ton of music from that time. We have all these insane special guests, and it'll just be a really special one.
Well, you really do sort of, I feel like in everything you do have a thread through history, right? You know, I know there's the common Bruce Springsteen thing because of the jersey, but I mean, you take your new track. I hear Paul Simon through this like crazy.
Interesting.
You have such a reverence for the past. I wonder where that comes from.
I just like it. I mean, I think that I don't see like art as this like, you know, absurdly evolving thing where you need to like access like any sort of crazy, shocking ideas outside of just telling your story, which is the most shocking thing. So I don't hear, if I listen to Paul Simon or Joni Mitchell or someone like that, like it doesn't sound old to me. And when I hear something that came out yesterday, it doesn't sound new to me. It just kind of hits me or it doesn't. And I think it's sort of a dangerous road to go down to like, you know, I mean, I'm not going like full Jack White on it and like only using like certain equipment that's like from a different era, which I have total respect to. You know, like I use modern stuff. I'll put 808s in a song with post-string guitars. I don't care. But I guess my point is I don't sit around and think, this is pastiche, this isn't. I just think if it is exciting. And if something is exciting, then I think it's modern. And I think if you get into the conversation of what is modern, like, you know, once it was trap and now it's acoustic stuff and now it's this and now guitars are back, it's just sort of like a losing game because by the time you have time to even think about what sonics are modern, isn't it like arguably not modern anymore? So it's a little like, who gives a shit? So to me, I just kind of look for what's exciting. And all of a sudden,
the moment's passed you by, you know?
Yeah. It's like that, you know, in that Metallica documentary when they're having an argument about how guitar solos are pastiche, but then Kirk is saying, well, to play into what's pastiche, isn't that technically pastiche? It's like, you know, you kind of realize like you're at your best as a songwriter and a band leader if you're just doing that feels really exciting to you at the time. And also, it's kind of inherently flawed for an artist to worry about what is or isn't modern because it's kind of on us to decide.
Well, it leads me into another thing that I've always thought about you. I wonder where you feel most comfortable. Are you most comfortable writing for yourself? Are you most comfortable producing? Are you most comfortable, you know, where's the sound space for you?
I was going to say in the shower, but then I realized you're asking a bigger question. Just 'cause I really like to sit there and think.
I do all my best thinking in the shower. It really is my favorite place in the world.
But now that I understand the question, both. They're different. I need both. I mean, I think there's when I'm producing records, I'm tapped into a little bit more of like a craft space, which is an exciting space. When I'm writing, it's a little lonelier and scarier.
Because it's so vulnerable?
Yeah, and I got to wrestle with it myself. And, you know, I'm not writing lyrics for anyone else. And, you know, I could write tons of music and produce things, but as soon as you start, kind of writing your poems and putting them into the songs, it's just a different thing. It's funny because the two producing records, making my own records, they're so inherently similar and different at the same time. Like my body does the same thing. And in the same place. I'm doing the same things, but it all feels very different. I've never thought of the right analogy, but one day I will.
Well, I wonder, when you are doing your own thing, of course, there's a level of vulnerability there that has to exist. When did you feel as though that you were comfortable with your vulnerability? Is there a certain age? Was there a certain song? Was there a certain moment? You're like, okay, I can manage this, because it's a frightening place to be.
I just felt comfortable with it, but it took me years to feel comfortable sharing it. So it was never anything that upset me or embarrassed me or made me feel uncomfortable. It actually made me feel sort of vital and alive when I would do it. But then it took me some amount of time to have enough armor to say, yeah, and I'm going to throw this out there.
And does that lend you to being a better producer, because you can talk to artists and say, this is how you can get there? Or do you inherently work with artists that are already tapped into that sort of vulnerability?
Well, I don't think it's a process that you ever let go of. Like, I think you're always re-tapping into it, reminding yourself how to get there, playing to your strengths, making sure that like bad voices aren't guiding you. And I definitely think it makes me better at all my work, because it's about understanding. I'm not saying this in a critical way, but you're a songwriter or you're not. If you're someone who can put a couple chords together in a room with someone, you're not necessarily a songwriter. I'm talking about people who sit down and write music and lyrics together about that came from nowhere. If that's something that you do and need to do, then you can see it in other people, and you can see the glory in it. You can see the anxiety in it. So I have a lot of sympathy for it, and so I think that has always helped me relate to people I'm working with.
Well, I mean, you tap into something I wasn't going to get into, but the Damon Albarn thing. You're either a songwriter or not. I mean, that's a really great way of putting it. His version of being a songwriter is very, very literal.
Well, it's literally is also wrong, but I think the Damon thing, what it says to me, because obviously it's completely absurd and everyone knows that, you're talking about one of the greatest songwriters of our generation who has her name as the only name on many songs, like that's, you don't need me to explain it. It's fact. The problem I had with the Damon thing beyond what he actually said is I don't like it when artists who are the concept of being an artist is to be very tapped into a deep place. I don't mind talking this or that, whatever, but I don't like it when artists sort of like almost take this Trumpian approach of just making things up. Like, I don't care if Damon Albarn or anyone likes or doesn't like something, but to unequivocally make a statement that isn't true, that you actually have no idea about, and not to get too deep on it, but isn't that kind of everything that's wrong with our world at the moment is just people talking about shit that they have no clue about? But
the president controls gas prices.
But you know what? I expect it from politicians. I expect it from idiots and herbs and corporate assholes and whatnot. When it's
I like the term herbs.
Yeah, I use it a lot. When it's from someone who's in a band and is an artist, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it's such a vulnerable thing to be an artist and a songwriter.
Yeah.
You wanna go full Liam Gallagher and be like, this person sucks, that person sucks, whatever. Do you? But to just sort of like launch this like weird, baseless concept with this bravado that it's such fact. I mean, I tweeted this, but maybe before you say that, you should shut the up.
Well, I could literally talk to you all day. I find you to be the most interesting person in music. I think the new album is terrific. I can't wait for you to come to New Orleans. I don't know when the last time you were in New Orleans was, but
it's been a minute. I think the last time we played there was Jazz Fest. Before that, Voodoo, and we've never headlined the show there. So there's a lot of firsts on this tour.
Well, we've got a lot of firsts to take you around town when you get to town. I'm going to wrap it up with one thing, and it's not to the Taylor point, but I do have one odd question. What is the oddest person? Because you've worked with so many people and so many weird people reach out to you. What's the oddest person to reach out to you?
Oddest person to reach out to.
The one that you never expected in a million years.
They didn't personally reach out, but I got a call once about Barbra Streisand, and I was like, whoa. So that's the answer there.
I mean, that makes my Jewish grandmother very excited.
Yeah,
very excited.
It made mine very excited.
Jack, I like you so much, and I can't wait to see you in New Orleans. I'll see you at Bonnaroo, and we'll travel the farm
Can't
together.
wait. I'm happy to talk Bonnaroo with someone who understands the level of power that Bonnaroo is.
Let's do it again. Let's talk Bonnaroo. Just talk shop again.
Anytime, man.
See you, buddy.
Take care, Brad.
Yeah, you too.